Okay, we're live. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a good day. We're going to get started officially here in just a little over a minute, but wanted to hop on, let you know you're in the right place, and go grab your coffee. You have one more minute to go grab some coffee or water, and we'll get going. We're just about ready to get started officially, but hello, everyone. Happy you're joining us today. Matt and I are about to have a good conversation, so we're glad you're going to be part. I think it'll be helpful. Hey, Jen. Everybody say hello if you're on. I love that. Okay, let's get started officially then. So, welcome everyone, and thank you for tuning in and being with us today. We hope you find this session helpful. I know you will. So, I am super excited today to talk to Matt Johnson. We met, I don't know, a couple months ago, didn't we, Matt?
Yeah,
Like
I think
maybe
last fall sometime.
Yeah, a few months ago. Um, and Matt's here today to talk about branding, marketing basics, website basics, understanding fractional work for small organizations. And so we're going to have a robust conversation about all that. Um, I love that when I ask the question, what idea are you bringing to the nonprofit coffee talk that can lead to meaningful change in the world? Matt's answer was helping nonprofit leaders understand the growing function of fractional staffing and how it can be effective for their needs. And I'm actually seeing a lot of fractional staffing around marketing, social media, those kinds of things. So I think this is going to be a really helpful conversation. Um, Matt has over 18 years in leadership through nonprofit and ministry roles, specializing in organizational development and administrative systems. While he's strategically wired, Matt is relationship driven, and I will confirm that is a strong relationship drive in Matt, which is wonderful. And he thrives in opportunities that help people grow through genuine connection. He's a huge proponent of recovery, second chances, and hope for the hopeless. He currently serves as a fractional marketing and operations leader for small organizations, including for profit businesses, nonprofits, and startups. So, welcome, Matt. Super excited to have you here today.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Libby. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it'll be a good conversation. And I'm Libby V, nonprofit champion and founder of Libby V and Associates. And through visioning, strategy work, leadership coaching, development support, organizational and board development, our nonprofit leader clients successfully raise more money and have more impact. But not all nonprofits can afford to hire a consultant. So I created the Nonprofit Coffee Talk as a way to provide great content and helpful information to as many nonprofit people as I can. And I hope you find it useful today and every other day it's on. Always feel free to reach out to me to be on the Nonprofit Coffee Talk, to suggest other topics or speakers that you'd like to see on the Nonprofit Coffee Talk. So with that, let's get started. So Matt, let's talk about marketing for nonprofits and
hmm
just what advice do you have for folks, or what things should they be thinking about?
Yeah, marketing can feel so daunting. It can be marketing and advertising, outreach, whatever kind of term you want to use can be really hard. If you are a nonprofit leader, you probably already have identified a problem in your world and you've come up with a solution and you've taken the steps to figure out how to actually launch a business and do all that stuff. And now you're kind of in that stage oftentimes where it's like, how do people find out about us? How do people know that we exist so that we can do what we want to do, right? And most people turn to marketing. Uh, I think it's really important as you turn to marketing. It may seem overly simplistic, but it's really important to just make sure that you have some basics in place. If you have not gone to Google and claimed your business on Google, that is a really significant step. It's not hard to do. You can go to Google My Business and look for information. Make sure that you claim your business. Make sure that your hours, if you have hours, are listed, contact information, all of that. That is a more and more important, really simplistic piece of just being found easily on the internet. From there, it's really important that you have some kind of an online presence that's very clear and concise. A simplified website. You may not need a website that has 15 or 20 pages the first website that you build for your nonprofit. You may need a website with 1 or 2 pages that really clearly communicates who you are and what you do and has a singular next step of how people could engage with you. So is it donating? Is it scheduling a call? Is it joining an email list? Um, Make sure that those are very clear about what you're asking people to do when they engage with you to take some steps forward. Um, and then as odd as it may seem, I still to this day see nonprofits of all sizes regularly not using consistency in really simple things like their font and their logo color, their general style on how they present. And that becomes really challenging because if I see 5 or 6 things from your company that all look different, my mind doesn't begin to recognize that as an identifiable brand and an identifiable organization. So make sure that you take the time to put some of those simple, small things in place from the very beginning. It will reap massive benefits for you over time as you begin to get people to notice who you are and have some recognition and clarity with that.
Those are really good 4 steps, right? And they're not impossible, they're pretty doable.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I just dig into a couple
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
okay, good. So, with Google My Business, I've heard that you should go in and update it frequently, like, when you're doing your social media, add the photos or the graphics that you're using, or, how important is it to keep active on Google My Business after you've claimed it and put your information in?
Yeah, so there's kind of a range there. On the bottom end of that range, it's really important just to make sure that that information is at least accurate and updated. So if it changes, if your organization moves, that should be one of the first places you change it. So the baseline is that it all has to be accurate and updated, right? Uh, if there are holidays that adjust your schedules, things like that, those are great opportunities to change it as well. And every time that you tweak it, it helps improve it a little bit for the user, which then makes it easier to find. And Google likes that, so they make it a little bit more observable. Uh, from there, the sky's the limit. You can sync a lot of your social media accounts to your Google in a way that, as you mentioned, your posts go there. So people, if you do that, have the opportunity just by Googling the name of your business, that right panel shows up a lot of times, and they can get a really intensive view of your organization if you connect your Google My Business well. Minimally, it needs to represent you clearly. There's a huge amount of opportunity there for you to really get into who you are and what you do before they even land on your website based on how you feed social media there. A lot of social media aggregators these days will actually connect to Google My Business for you so that every time you post to LinkedIn or social media, it drops it there as well. So StreamYard, excuse me, we're in StreamYard. Sorry, I'm losing the names of some of the things we use. Um, Constant Contact will do that with emails in some ways. My other one of my other clients uses a site called um, Content Studio. They will also stream out. There's a ton of them like Hootsuite. They're all those kind of social aggregators that will spit out information. You can connect Google My Business in that way.
Oh my gosh, that's so smart. I use Buffer to schedule my posts on LinkedIn, but, yeah, I'll check in to see if it'll go to my Google My Business because I don't do anything with my Google My Business right now, and I know I need to, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so you can choose what goes and what doesn't.
Uh-huh.
Um, Make sure that the things that you send there are really accurate representations of your mission and vision. So if you have a social media post that's kind of ancillary or secondary, it probably doesn't need to go there. If you have a social post that's core, uh, Google My Business is a great place to highlight that before they even get to your social accounts or to your website.
That's really good advice. Yeah, that's good. Is there any, do you have any sort of guidelines about Google My Business and how often you're adding something to it or check, any particular metrics around that?
I don't
Yeah.
specifically. As an admin, you'll get an email every month from Google that said this many people looked up your business and found it. And every once in a while, there will be some recommendations from Google in that email that says people were looking for your hours and they weren't displayed. You should display them, right? That's kind of a generic prompt, but they will give you some prompts that are helpful. Beyond that, I think it's just important to make sure that you're updating it frequently, but not so much that it becomes cluttered because then it doesn't represent clearly either. So that's really just kind of a snapshot of who you are. In some ways, it's like a digital business card in today's world. So it needs to be catchy, but it doesn't need to be so busy that it's hard to recognize what's important.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Good. Um, and then, I love your recommendation, like tell people very clearly and easily how to engage with you. Um, do you have any other suggestions around like what seems to be working out there with nonprofits as engagement? I mean, we have the standards, right? Sign up for our newsletter, those kinds of things. Anything in there you'd want to add to that recommendation?
Yeah. So I think it depends on what channels you're using and how you're communicating what you ask for. So, for instance, on a website, it's more of a formal interaction as they're seeing your content. Unless you have a live chat bot or something like that, they're probably not interacting with you in the moment. They're just reading. And so a static response for that would be great. That would be join an email list, sign up to volunteer, those kinds of processes where they can just kind of jump in, let you know that they're interested, and that's a great next step. That's a pretty low hurdle. When it comes to other forms of communication, social media and email, I find that the best next steps are typically just trying to get people to actually engage with you in an actual conversation. So instead of in the email saying, "Hey, click this to schedule a calendar meeting," which might seem like a far reach for some people, it might be easier just to say, "I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Would you give me your feedback? And here's a specific question." Or I'm gathering information and I'd love for you to tell me your perspective because it helps me be a better nonprofit leader to support organizations like you. Um, for better or worse, humans like to talk about themselves and the things that they're passionate about, but that's how relationships are built and that's how
Yeah.
genuine interactions happen. And so when you have the chance to interact with people directly, you need to take opportunities to actually get them to engage. And that means asking about them, not just telling them about you.
Yeah, that's such good advice. It's that relationship, right? You have to build a relationship with people. They have to know, like, and trust you before they're gonna really fully engage.
Yeah.
Um, and they're people. They're people, so we have to.
Yeah.
I tell nonprofit leaders all the time, and I wonder if you echo this. It's like, how do you form a friendship? You're forming friendships with people. They're professional friendships, but they're friendships nonetheless if you think of them that
Yeah.
way. Does that
Yeah.
resonate with what you kind of advise people?
Yeah, absolutely. If I met someone on the street today, I wouldn't invite them to go on vacation with me tomorrow,
Right.
right? And so in some ways, as a nonprofit, we ask for that same level of intimacy in like rapidly of saying, "Hey, you just heard about my organization. Would you be a monthly donor or would you be a sponsor or would you give us money in some way or give us your time and energy?" And that typically is a hurdle too far.
Yeah.
And so the relationship development has to start with what's the common denominator
Mhm.
Where do we see overlap in, if you think of kind of concentric circles, in the mission and vision of what we do and the passion of the people you're interacting with, and how can you work those two things together in a
Mhm.
way that pulls them towards the mission, your mission and vision, and gets them eventually integrated into the process. But too
Yeah.
often we go straight for volunteer, give me money, and we would never do that in any other relationship development, right?
That's right. And some people will come to your website or whatever and or your social media or your Google My Business and say, "Geez, I really like this and my friend told me about them or I've heard about them and maybe I will just go see if I can volunteer or donate." There are going to be a few of those people. So you want to
Yeah,
give them that option, but you also just really want to be very intentional about building those relationships,
yeah,
very deliberate about that. So, great, thank you so much. Um, and then the last one about branding and that kind of stuff is really
sure.
important so that people don't have to say, "Wait, is that the same organization? It looks a little different," right? That they start
Yeah.
it get their your brand and colors and logos start getting branded into their brain with good feelings attached to them. Anything in what you'd want to highlight there with the piece about branding and style and all that?
Yeah, I don't know if the stat is correct. I see the number all the time that people need to interact with your business 7 times before it starts to take root in their memory in a way that it's recognizable. And every one of those 7 times that's different creates a different neural pathway, and it just doesn't sync up. So making sure that your logos look the same, wherever it's displayed, it looks the same. The fonts you use for your company name are all the same. And the easiest thing I try to help people is just do it once, create what just a simple, even if it's just a Word document or Google Doc, called a style sheet that says, this is the font we use, this is the color we use. If it's web related, give that 6 hexadecimal color code with the color, not just baby blue, because there's 50 colors of baby blue, right?
Right.
So make it very clear, very simple, and then just make sure that everybody that engages anything that's public facing runs a filter through that before they publish anything that says, does it match all of the things that we said we want as an organization?
Yeah.
And then the other really simple thing I encourage people to do is just, wherever all of your basic information is saved, make sure that there is a unique folder that is saved public current or some other version of that, where the logos and font files and everything else that you use are all saved in that one place. So if you have changed your logo or your colors or your design over the years, you're not accidentally pulling something that's outdated, and everybody knows where to find the most current information.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Marketing in general and marketing and brand, excuse me, branding have become so critical in the nonprofit world. And it used to be that that was kind of a luxury, right, to have good any marketing at all. And now it's
Yeah,
just mandatory. It's absolutely expected and required. So,
yeah,
which which brings me to this conversation about fractional folks, right?
yeah.
So, can you want to talk a little bit about that? And I would like to, can I shout out Naveen, Gary, Amanda on LinkedIn who said hi and gave some positive comments. So, thank
Awesome.
you for being on today and joining us. Okay, Matt, what about
Okay,
fractional staffing?
so fractional. Uh, a lot of people don't have any idea what the term fractional is. It might just be a generational buzz term. It might be a new way to work. It's probably kind of a combination of the two. Uh, Traditionally, a lot of nonprofits and small businesses might hire a consultant to give them some input on things that they could change or improve or make better. They might hire a 1099 contractor to do specific tasks or functions or work. A fractional employee tends to bring those two things together in kind of a unique way. It's typically somebody that has a significant amount of experience around the work and the topics and the themes that need help or an organization wants developed in. But they couldn't afford to just go hire somebody with 15 or 20 years of experience, and they wouldn't get the value for their money if they simply just paid a 1099 contractor to just do the work. They need some combination of the two. And so fractional work is great because I am able to have multiple companies as clients and help them improve their processes and learn from each of them in a way that I can then apply the learning across all of my client base. And I'm able to take 20 plus years of experience and apply it to organizations that typically couldn't afford to pay for 20 plus years of experience because you're just purchasing a small amount of my time that's very focused on consulting and then actually embedding myself in your organization, helping you get the work done.
Hmm.
And so that's what fractional looks like. It's an opportunity to hire someone with a little bit more experience for something very specific to help move your organization forward that you
Hmm.
probably couldn't find in just a regular part-time person.
Yeah, and it's actually really financially helpful for organizations that don't have the means to hire a qualified, very experienced staff person. Um, and I just want to just take a second to recognize that a lot of nonprofit leaders are worried about the whole IRS regulations around contractors versus employees. And the real determining factor of if you're okay to hire a contractor is, are they using their own equipment? Do they not have an office space in your building if you have that? Um, and so that they're really free to help you by giving their advice and using their tools. That is okay to contract. It's when you're
Yeah,
telling people you need to be here at this time, you have an office here, here's your computer, and these are the things we want you to do, being very directive, then you probably need to have an employee. So just
yeah,
to ease people's minds because they get a little worried about that IRS thing. You can contract with people. It's perfectly
yeah.
acceptable and works well.
And I've actually found in my experience, especially earlier starting nonprofits, looking at hiring their first or second potential staff or team development hires, uh, hiring someone on a fractional basis might actually help you move the ball forward faster in those processes. In ways that you may need someone to come alongside your organization for a 3 or 6 month
Yeah.
period to really help bolster your marketing or your accounting or your operations. Those tend to be kind of the three most common places that I see fractional work in place. Uh,
Mhm.
and you're probably going to spend the same amount or less as you would to hire a full time employee for that.
Yep.
Uh, and once that process is done, you're in a better place to actually then hire a full time employee with a better, robust system in place.
Yes.
So I think that I would encourage nonprofit leaders to look at the fractional contracting option and not think that they have to hire a part-time or full-time employee from the very beginning if they could get those services done elsewhere.
Yeah, because the other thing that fractional folks do for you, and really any consultant is a fractional person. I mean, that's just the way it is they look at it in a different way, right? They're more objective, and they bring to the table the like you said, the experience of working with lots of different organizations and learning from all of them and improving, but also this strategy, this look at, like, from a strategic perspective, asking the tough questions because they're one step removed, right? Like, why are you doing it that way? Explain it to me, right?
Yeah.
And really digging in and setting up systems and processes is the other thing too, so that every good consultant should be helping you set up those so that when they leave, you've got them, right? And you're ready to
Hmm.
hire somebody into the position. And so it can add a lot of value. And I mean, I'm biased, of course, because I am one of those fractional leaders, but it really can add a lot of value to your organization.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. My goal is that if I work with an organization for 3 months or 6 months, I don't. My goal is that I don't want to leave them stranded. I don't want to leave them now having to figure out who's going to do the work I did. My goal is to progressively move that ball forward and help them grow and develop in a way that the organization grows in capacity, not me
Yes,
filling capacity for them.
that's
And
right.
so
That's exactly right.
I may do some of the work, but I'm also trying to train, whether it's one person or a team. Here's
Yeah.
why we're doing what we're doing. Here's how we're doing it. Here's how they should do it. And then
Mhm.
I want to be able to remove myself from that and see that continue well.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it doesn't, I haven't done what I'm supposed to.
Exactly. And what I find too is that another piece of value that fractional people bring is often organizations, the leaders, they don't quite know what roles they need in their organization yet. And so often they'll sort of be forced to think through, well, I need this position, versus hiring somebody who's fractional to sort of set up those processes and systems. And then throughout that process, it becomes clear what you need in a staff person, right? When you go
Yeah.
through working with somebody who's fractional, you kind of work that out,
Yeah.
of what's needed, what roles are needed or role. So,
Yeah. I
yeah,
see so many job listings of administrative help, things like that, that are really kind of a unicorn that the organization, when you look at it, is actually asking for, support in systems and managing a CRM and a database, but we also want you to post on social media 15 times a week. Like you're gonna have a really hard time finding a person that fills all of those well.
yeah,
You may be better suited to look for one or two fractional people that could plug some of
mhm,
those holes, help develop
exactly.
the systems around them that you need, and then be better off to hire somebody after that.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Um, I wonder if do you have anything more on fractional? We have just a couple minutes, and if not, I wanted to kind of pivot back to something.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So, websites, right? We all have to
Uh-huh.
have them, and we all do. I just wonder, what advice would you give somebody who maybe doesn't have a website or maybe put their website together on GoDaddy or one of the other platforms, sort of a self-made thing, which isn't bad necessarily.
Mhm.
But what I found when I was building mine, and I think this goes for a lot of nonprofits too, is there's a lot of stuff that is in the back, the coding and the SEO pieces, that you can kind of mess up. In fact, I just learned
Yes.
from my web developer that I needed to have everything have closed captioning. If it's a video or an audio, that there should be closed captioning because organizations are being sued for not being accessible. But that's just one thing. Like, are there things that you think we should be thinking about with our websites and maybe kind of analyzing, what it is currently and what it needs to be or whatever? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, yeah. There are a ton of great tools and systems out there. You can build yourself through WordPress or through Wix, through SquareSite, things like that. And they're functional. If you have some time, either to teach yourself how to do it or you already kind of understand how that works. They are functional sites. I actually prefer Wix in some ways over WordPress. I build on WordPress most of the time, but I have a couple customers in Wix, and there's some unique, cool features in there. Um, I think what I see regularly is people coming saying, "I've spent 20 hours to build this website, and it still doesn't look the way I want it to look. It doesn't do the things I want it to do, and now I need help." And so I try to give some encouragement and advice to nonprofit leaders early on, just to say you have to weigh the cost of investing to get it done right versus the cost of your time and what you're not doing because you're spending 20 hours to build a website. Um, and really calculate that out before you decide to wing it and do it on your own. That can work out well. It can also be really challenging.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's really good advice. I was building my own, and then I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I'm just going to face the facts. Like, I really don't know what I'm doing when it comes to all the back end code and stuff. And I was like, I
Yeah.
feel like I could get myself into trouble pretty easily. So I ended up finding someone, and also it was taking me 1,000% longer to do the work that somebody could do, in a fraction of the time.
Yeah.
And so that was my decision. Like, I'm calling somebody in to rescue me from myself. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah,
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong.
yeah,
You can deal with it if you have the time and the patience to do that.
yeah,
So I don't want to discourage people from that. I also want to make sure that it's just clear that it, unless you have some experience around website development, you may feel in over your head quickly.
Yeah.
Um, so it's just
Yes.
kind of an organizational choice you have to make.
Yeah, it is overwhelming. And that's not to say that you're not involved with the content of your website, right? You have to be
Yeah,
involved in that. And I think it's worth even hiring somebody who is a sort of a marketing writer, to kind of help you with the content. Is I did that, and that was worth every bit of what I paid her to do that.
yeah,
So yeah.
yep.
Any last bits of wisdom around any of the topics that we're discussing today? So
I encourage leaders to take some steps, some really practical steps to begin to put these things in place. The more that you document, the easier it becomes later on when you think, man, I don't remember, like somebody asked me if we had like a boilerplate text that we could give them to describe our company, and I'm sick of typing up a response every time. Like, look back through your emails, find 3 or 4 of them, edit them, save it, and you have it.
yeah.
As you work through these things, try to remember to systematize along the way, and it will make it easier and easier as you go.
Yeah, that's great advice too. And I just want to repeat your 4 suggestions that you had right up front because I think they're great. Go to Google My Business if you haven't already. Claim your business, add information to it, update it regularly. Um, make sure your online presence is simple and concise. Tell people clearly how to engage with you. And then be consistent with your branding and your style and your font and all those things.
Yeah,
Perfect. We're right at noon. This was
awesome,
great. Thank you so much for being here, Matt. This has been wonderful. Very practical advice that I love. Um,
awesome.
I asked Matt where people could get in touch with him. And so I'm going to pop into the chat box his LinkedIn um, profile on oddly enough, when I post things here, I don't think it populates to LinkedIn. So Matt is Matt Johnson 654 is the end. So
Yeah,
linkedin.com/n/Matt Johnson 654. So
yep.
all right. And please join us next week when our guest, Jody Bopp, will be talking about major gifts and how they're not just for major institutions. Small nonprofits should be raising major gifts as well. That'll be a good conversation too. And as usual, let me know if you have any guests you'd like to see on here, or if you would like to be on, I'd love to have you. Get in touch with me, libbyv@libbyv.com, and would love your suggestions or volunteering to be on as a guest. So have a great day. Thank you, Matt, so much.
Thanks.
All right. Take care, everybody.